So I initially went into Gen V nervous because I was like, how do you make a spin-off for the boys work? That sounds like it's not going to be good. Man, did this show surprise me.
Tortured Emma, right? No. I just gave her a plat.
Welcome back, everybody. So I know people have been asking me, The Boys is coming out. The Boys is coming out. Have you watched Gen V? I was talking about how excited I was about season 4, and I was admitting to people, I haven't seen Gen V yet. And everyone kept saying, you have to watch Gen V, Amanda. You gotta watch it. So guess what? I went back. I finished it finally. I watched it. And it's so different from what I anticipated this show was going to be. So initially when it came out, I already kind of got a sense I was going to like it because I watched most of episode 1, but then I stopped there and I got distracted by some things. I was initially waiting to watch it with Uptown Duck, but then we went off and we're watching other stuff, doing other things. So coming back, it was all already out, which was great, and I was very excited to jump back into it. I thought this was going to be a show that was going to be about racy co-eds who have superpowers and they're so racy and it's so edgy and look at this stuff. That's not, I mean, there's a level of that. I would say a part of episode 1 is a little bit of that, but this show is so much more than that. It is so much more than a surface level, which is what I thought it was going to be. I don't know why I thought it was going to be that based on what I've seen we've done with the boys, but I think I was just nervous because we were going to college, And I just thought for going to college, it might not have as much weight. It still has a lot of weight. It's got a cool mystery in it. And it is so much more than just a bunch of soups competing to be number 1 so that when they graduate, they can be the new best soup at Vought. It is how it starts, and that is an element to it, don't get me wrong. But by the end of episode 1, you are just thrown into a completely unexpected plot that just spirals out of control. Much like the tone of The Boys, honestly, but with a lot of original characters, I believe. Now, I haven't read every single issue of The Boys, so if there are some characters that you feel are inspired by certain people, let me know. I'd love to go check that out. But for what I know, Gen V is loosely based on a story called We Gotta Go Now from The Boys. It is a story arc, and it's involves the boys infiltrating a group that are known as the G-Men. The G-Men are basically the boys' version of the X-Men. And of course, because this is the boys' universe, it is not like the X-Men. They are run by a guy named John Godolkin who mistreats these youths that he takes in. And he actually takes them at a young age and then gives them V and turns them into superpowers and makes them loyal only to him. Brainwashes them, messes with them in all sorts of ways. So it's really messed up. And with Gen V, we have Godolkin University, and everyone goes there, and that's just the name of the school. There's no John Godolkin in sight here initially, it seems. And it's doing something very different. I will say I do think there's still some X-Men inspiration here, which I actually really like about it, but not in the same way as what we have with the comics. It's very different. And I think that's also what I really like about it. It's a very good adaptation that takes that idea and just expands it and does something way cooler, I think. I love the characters. I love the unique powers that we get here. I mean, Marie literally has blood-bending powers, which is so cool. Okay, we're gonna get into spoilers, so I guess I should probably say that. I mean, I'm sure you've all seen Gen V at this point, but heads up, if you haven't, we're about to talk about it, because I'm literally about to say something that's a spoiler. The fact that we realize there's this connection even between Marie's powers and Victoria Newman's powers, that was insane to me when that reveal dropped. I just think it's a lot of these powers and the way that they're used too is so cool. And it's not even just the power sets. I feel like every character that we see here has a weakness or a flaw or something like that, which is also super cool as well to see. I think some characters, even in the boys show, don't have that kind of upfront. And so we really get to see the strengths and the weaknesses of all of these characters. They feel very much like people, even though they are superpowered individuals. I think my favorite character is probably Little Cricket. I love Little Cricket. She's just so fun, so cool. I'm just rooting for her. And I just think her power set is so, when you can just shrink. And also the fact that she has to purge to shrink is like, that is so not useful in combat. I love the idea that at Godolkin there's different paths you can kind of go on to, where you can be, a superhero, or you can be more of an entertainer. And seeing which way these characters all see themselves and what they want to do, and watching them on their paths as these young heroes who are trying to figure stuff out is also super interesting as well. I just love as well the complex romance plots that we get in this. I wasn't expecting to go into a show like this and be like, oh yeah, these romance plots are nuts. But honestly, these romance plots are nuts. I really was pulled into some of them in an interesting way. They made me think about some things a lot. Honestly, a lot of this show made me think about some things a lot, especially when it comes to the students' struggles and how it's reflected in their power set, and how the powers are kind of thematically tied to real world problems and issues that we would be able to relate to from when we were kids, or even just as adults. Some of these issues, I think they're ongoing issues, Sometimes you grow up and you realize, wow, just because you grow up doesn't mean that all of the problems you had as a kid are going to be solved. I gotta say, as an adult, I gotta say. I think the way the powers worked were fascinating, and I think it's just, there's some stuff here that's really unique, I felt, in terms of the way that was approached. For Little Cricket, I feel like her powers are obviously reflective of, body issues, body dysmorphia, not wanting to, like, this conflict that we have when we see our body and, like, fully accepting ourselves. Even though I think Little Cricket actually isn't really who she is as a person. We don't really see as much of that struggle with her, but it is reflected in her powers. And also the fact that she's like kind of in denial of it. I think she struggles with judging herself, but she doesn't want to admit it as much. And obviously when it's like literally tied into your power set, I mean, wow. That's what I'm going to say about that. Wow. Jordan Lee's powers also really hit me. They're all about exploring, I think, this idea of self-discovery, self-acceptance. And Jordan's journey seems to have been about accepting and kind of coming out as bi-gendered, which is reflected in Jordan Lee's powers. Jordan's powers are that they have sort of two different power sets, and they switch genders to use each power set. I think that this power set is not just even reflective of Jordan's own journey, but you could kind of see it in a larger theme as being reflective of coming out and accepting yourself in various different ways. Obviously, I think it connects the most closely to the idea of coming out as non-binary or trans. Those are the strongest parallels, but you could use it for a variety of different things. I personally really connected a lot with that character as well, and I thought it was such a cool character. And just honestly, one of my favorite scenes, I think, is Jordan's scene with their parents when they're at the Think Brink, the like charity gala or fundraiser that they have at the school, and they just are confronting their dad and saying, you see me as being your son, and you see me as changing when I'm the female version of your kid. But at the end of the day, I've always just been Jordan. Like, I've never been different. This is just who I am. Man, that hit me so hard. And honestly, I'm talking about it now, it's making me want to cry. Like, it's just such a moving scene. It's really, really beautiful, some of the stuff that we fit into this weird show about superhero kids at a university. What a strange thing that I watched and felt so many emotions from. I love how there are also a lot of shades of gray in this show. I feel like every character that is a villain, a bad guy, evil, all of these characters have reasons behind why they do what they do, and you feel the nuance, and you actually kind of feel for them, even though they're doing something that's super messed up, because we really clearly understand their motivation. That is extending to whether we're talking about Dean Shetty. Dean Shetty losing all of her family in Flight 37. I mean, yeah, that'll mess you up. And honestly, right to be like, superheroes are messed up and we need to do something about that. Or even if we're talking about Golden Boy's brother, Sam, who, is imprisoned below Godolkin in the woods, and has been tormented for a good amount of his life, and also is dealing with, you know, mental health issues, neurodivergence, whatever you want to call that. That is, I'm like, yeah, I understand why Sam goes down the path that he goes down. It makes sense to me. Or whether we're talking about Kate and Kate's path even. I also just feel so bad for her, you know? Like, it's really messed up what's happened to pretty much everybody in this show. Anyone could become a villain, and I'd probably be like, yeah, I mean, I get it, man. I get it. I'm just honestly so glad that I watched this. It's better than The Boys, I think. I think Gen V, I think I prefer it. Especially now that I've started season 4 of The Boys. Don't get me wrong, I'm still enjoying The Boys. I can't wait to talk to you guys about episodes 1 through 3. But I do think this show is just stronger at this point. And it could also be because The Boys is on the 4th season. It's been a while. We've been going through it. But Gen V is also very fresh. These are new characters and we're getting to know them, and that's exciting. The Boys, I feel like I've been through some of the paces before, you know? Gen V, I didn't know what to expect and I found it delightful. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. I think overall, I would say I would recommend that you watch it before you watch The Boys season 4 if you haven't yet. I don't necessarily think that like you absolutely have to, but it's just so beautifully woven into the world. It's got so many fun cameos too. It's got the Deep. They got a very interesting take as well on McKnight here that I really liked and was really weird. It's a fun adaptation of that character from the comics. And I feel like it does have some key components, some key elements like the virus, which we're clearly going to see in The Boys. This is a virus that can weaken, control, and kill Soups, and it's contagious. And we know based on the end of Gen V that that's going to come into The Boys because Butcher shows up. We also know that Victoria Newman gets her hands on this thing. It's gonna be wild, y'all. And so I think you want it for that context. Also, I think some of these characters are gonna be showing up that we see in Gen V, but I don't think it's necessary because I do think The Boys is going to kind of connect those dots for people that haven't seen it. But should you watch it, you definitely should. It's amazing. From episode to episode, I was riveted, and I think it is an easy show to binge as well because although there are still heavy moments here, they aren't as heavy as some of the ones that we have in The Boys by contrast. So you don't really need to take as many breaks, and each episode to episode is so compelling that as soon as you finish one, you want to start the next one immediately. So I found it really easy to watch in a small period of time without feeling like I was drowning in emotion or it was just too much. So that's where I'm at with it. I really liked it. Overall, man, what would I give Gen V? I want to say like a 9 out of 10. It's very close to being 10 out of 10 for me, though. I really liked it. But off the top of my head, I'm going to say 9 out of 10. It's almost perfect. What is it missing? I kind of want more. I do think it's also tragic that we have lost one of the cast members. We lost Chance Perdomo. And obviously, although I don't blame the show or anyone for that necessarily, I am curious to see where it's going to go next, considering that we won't have Andre, and they said they're not going to recast. So, yeah, I am intrigued. I definitely really liked this, and it was near perfect. It was really, really fun. Yeah, that's where I'm at. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this review. I hope you enjoyed, and until next time, friends, stay nerdy.